How's it going, sports fans? And welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Casey Hudson. I hope everybody is having a safe and it's tough to say good Monday right now, but I hope everybody is safe and sound and had a good weekend regardless of everything taking place. Obviously, this isn't the easiest segment to take place with everything going on in the world right now, which will definitely be addressed this evening on this show. But we have a few sports updates that we want to bring to you guys before getting to everything else and obviously giving the address the attention that it needs and deserves. So really quick, all Massachusetts teams have been given the okay to reopen their practice facilities as of June 6th. So we've got some momentum taking place in Massachusetts and a lot of other states. Long story short is that sports are at least now getting an opportunity to practice in small groups and start figuring out where they're going to place their seasons, how they're going to pick them up, and how they're going to prepare for the season to come. The exciting news on that is that it may be safe to say that fans will be in the stands. Last week, the Miami Dolphins owner came out and said he sees no issue with it whatsoever. We have talked about the fact that if it's a 65,000 holding stadium, that you can fill it at 20% and still put a lot of safety precautions and measures in place. And, we have to see how things go before we can completely say no at this point. The world is itching to kind of get moving again and find, its footing and find that normal lifestyle amongst everything taking place. Now, backing the Miami Dolphins owner is Texas governor saying, you know what, we will have fans in the stands at outdoor events only. All pro sports outdoors have gotten the okay to have 25% of fans attendance in games, which is really exciting. And we know that that's probably going to domino into some other sports and some other states. And we'll see what other governors or team owners come out to say that, they see no issue with it. But for the most part, we're hearing a lot of positivity in the sense that they want fans included, and they're going to find the best way to go about having them there and keeping everybody safe. But again, we've got to give something a try first before we say it can't work. Now, as for the NFL, they, amongst many of the other professional teams in the league, have released statements addressing the racial injustice that have taken place across our nation, and internationally, athletes and voices are being raised and heard to address everything that's taking place right now. Roger Goodell came out with a full-blown statement, but the bottom line of his was there's an urgent need for action in our nation right now, and everybody needs to step up and speak out. The Raiders owner himself also stepped forward to say, you know what, we're speaking against the injustice and there will be solutions brought to the table. We can't just sit back any longer. Now, on another note, because we'll touch back on all of that a little bit later, is that Deshaun Jackson thinks that if there are no fans in the stands, that players should be mic'd. That would be exciting because you're going to get to hear everything that you kind of feel like you're hearing when you're in the stands, or at least vibing off of and feeding off of. So it's not a bad idea, but then we kind of already have like the mic'd player of the week. So it still isn't going to be the same as being there and being in that atmosphere and the camaraderie that takes place actually in attendance of a game. But hey, everybody's trying to put their best foot forward right now to figure out how to maneuver themselves during COVID-19 because it's still taking place, guys. Now, Baker Mayfield says he's turning over a new leaf heading into year 3. That's fantastic. That's actually great and a sign of maturity for him. He said he's going to prove himself more on the field this year rather than running his mouth so much. And it kind of raised a question to me to say, does that college confidence translate off the field or off the collegiate field into the NFL? And in my personal opinion, it doesn't, because you can be a young and skillful athlete in college and make your name due to your skill set very early on in your college career. It's not as easy to do so in the NFL. So you kind of have to come into the NFL with a lot more humility. I mean, realistically, any new chapter of your life, you need to have humility and carry yourself and prove yourself first before you be so boastful and outspoken. And I think he was just excited because, he did a lot in his collegiate career, but he got a little overly enthusiastic when he got to the NFL. And I think after year 1, he felt like he maybe needed to ramp it up a little bit more. Maybe he felt the lack of translation, but now I think he realizes, like, look, okay, we need to reel it in. I need to have more of a mature mindset heading this field. I need a replica, that leadership throughout my teammates, throughout, Cleveland. And then we'll prove ourselves in the field with some W's. So we're hoping the Browns bring some W's to Cleveland this year. But as for the college confidence translating over to the league, I don't think it does. Everybody needs to have their moment, have their new chapter, have their humility, and then, start shouting from the rooftops if they may. Now, Melvin Gordon says that he's not concerned if fans are in the stands because the Chargers never had fans anyway, which is an interesting remark because he's actually no longer a Charger. Well, that's great that he's looking out for former teammates, I guess. He said, bro, we didn't have fans anyway. We had much loyalty. We had a lot of love, but not many fans. Well, most fans were in San Diego, where I personally believe the Chargers should have stayed. So, I mean, at least he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. But in the same sense, it's like, give him a chance before you say that there's going to be no fans. Like, maybe this is their year because the Raiders are actually gone to Las Vegas. I feel like they signed that Las Vegas contract like 10 years ago, and then it's finally possibly potentially happening if there's an NFL season. So we'll see what takes place in the Chargers stadium if fans are allowed to come back. But I guess now they have an excuse because if they only come back at 20% capacity, what's the truth anyway? I don't know. Now, for the NBA, Commissioner Silver made his statement to the racial injustice taking place throughout the nation. And again, we will get down to that later on in the segment. But the NBA board is expected to okay the restart plan that Commissioner Silver has recommended. Now, majority of owners of the NBA actually do not want to restart without playoffs. And then with that said, most people are asking that the NBA board reconsider starting without 30 teams because they want all 30 teams to have an opportunity here. For the most part, the vote takes place on Thursday, and it looks like they're going to be leaning towards a 22-team restart. We will get confirmation on Friday and obviously dive more into that this coming Friday at 8 p.m. Now, when in the midst of their return, it looks like they'll be heading to ESPN Worldwide Sports as well. And we know another sport is talking about being there. And they're saying that July will continue to be their start date for restarting the NBA season. There was talks of the 16-team playoffs with team seedings based on the standings before March 12th. But this is actually, as I mentioned before, the NBA runs quite parallel to the NHL. And there's no way to really finish off these seasons properly and start from March 12th without it pushing or cutting too much into what's supposed to be the 2020 and 2021 season. So for the most part, they are going to have to cut some teams out in order to get moving. We know that the NHL announced their 24 playoff team format, and I think the NBA is going to have to go along with the same thing, but we will find out more towards the end of the week. Stick with us as we go to a quick commercial break, and we come back actually with some NHL updates.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, welcome back. So as for NHL updates, again, they're one amongst the professional teams that are been outspoken to the racial injustice taking place in our nation. Multiple teams have actually released independent statements, such as the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Dallas Stars, the New York Islanders, and as of recent, the Chicago Blackhawks. And if you take to their social media, you'll see a lot of the captains of these teams as well have had some very profound things to say and have spoken up very well. I actually encourage you to go check out Jonathan Tao's recent social media posts on Instagram, where it was very heartfelt and it was very, again, I mean, the best word I can find is profound to see his statement in terms of everything that's taking place. Now, for their actual team news, the guys should be back at the facilities this week or next week. They said June was going to be the resuming of small group training. As for training camp, now that we know that the season is going to jump back into playoffs, that won't be taking place any sooner than July 10th. The NHL said. As for that, they're not saying that July 10th will be the start date. They're just saying that that's the ballpark of when they plan to get playoffs started. They are still trying to narrow down the two hub cities that will host the Eastern Conference and then the Western Conference. They did tell GMs to get ready to plan for a 28-man roster for playoffs, and unfortunately, a lot of guys have spoken out to their frustration of their season being cut short. They obviously went with the seedings that stood off from March 12th and just kind of took the rankings from there. Now, if you understand hockey to the depth of the fact that they're a point system, you'll realize that, 8 to 11 games, 2 potential points a game, that can change your standing drastically. I mean, I know for the Tampa Bay Lightning, we were being nearly talked out of being in playoffs because of how some streaks that we were on, losing streaks, and then we had 3 strong winning streaks that put us in a 4th place standing, which now, has luckily carried over and translated to allow us to play in playoffs, as well as have a bye week, the first week of playoffs as well. So we do feel bad for the guys who had lost out on their season. This has just been, 2020 has been a roller coaster. It's very unpredictable. At the end of the day, they're just trying to get as much done as possible with their sights set on the fact that there's still seasons to come within this year. So it's hard. Now for the MLB, the MLBPA is looking to actually do a 114 game season. They're waiting for feedback as well as approval on that plan. And last week, nearly 1,000 minor league players were laid off or cut. And there is an expectation that there will be more this week as well as next week. And in these moments, we always have a hero. And David Price is our hero, as he has decided to donate $1,000 to each minor league player in the Dodgers system. We're estimating about a 40-man roster, so that is a huge commitment to him. Now, this raises the question, will other players be motivated and inspired to step up in the way that David Price has chosen to? And you can only hope so. We've circled back to this many times that with everything going on, especially, the way that COVID-19 has caused so much chaos and raised a lot of questions and, put people in such worrisome and financial predicaments. The minor league players, this is their career, this is their job, this is their livelihood. And aside from the money portion of it, this season, this could have been their season, their opportunity to prove themselves, to prove their worth, to show their improvement so that they could get that next contract, get that larger opportunity so that they can, make more money to live a certain lifestyle. So my hearts go out to these guys, all athletes across the nation that are trying to figure out their balance financially. But as for the guys that are speaking out or outraged to the pay cuts and stuff, we get it. You've signed up to have a certain lifestyle. You've committed to having a certain lifestyle, and bills are due for everybody at a certain point in time. But, 25% is better than making nothing. And a lot of people are in a position where they're just making nothing. So I applaud David Price for having the heart and the ability, because I know at the end of the day, it's not always like a I do or I don't situation. It's the fact that some people are just not in the position to help or do so. But if you are in the position to help and do so, it is the most courageous and heartfelt act to spread that and to give when you are in a position to give. So thank you, David Price, for that. Now, for the MLS, their Orlando tournament has been approved. We know that will take place at the Disney complex as well, and we're thinking it's going to kick off within the next month. Major League Soccer is in the process of altering its plans for return to plan to confirm everything, everyone's safety, the protocols and procedures that will go into play. But either way, we have Major League Soccer coming back to us. And as for soccer that we are going to see sooner rather than later, we know that the National Women's Soccer League is actually going to be the first amongst sports to return to play in the nation. We got the schedule of the Orlando Pride and their preliminary round schedule, and we know that their first game will be June 27th versus the Chicago Red Stars, July 1 versus Portland Thorns, July 5th versus North Carolina Courage, and then July 9th versus the Sky Blue FC. So it's going to be really exciting to finally have a real sport to watch and enjoy. And they haven't released anything in terms of having fans there, but I'm guessing that as quickly as they're picking up, there will be no fans. But at least we have something that's going to be live in time to tune into, watch, and enjoy together. Of course, with all the soccer talk, we've got to hop across the pond. The Premier League, they will be returning June 17th as long as the government approval goes through. Now, they'll be kicking off with Manchester City versus Arsenal, go Arsenal, and Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, which is going to be super, super exciting. This was probably the team that was getting the most pushback in terms of when they were actually going to start, how they were going to start, what safety protocols and procedures were going into play. And then in the midst of all of this, they had players testing positive for COVID. So there wasn't much of a light at the end of the tunnel when it came to Premier League for a while, but we know that these guys were fighting to get back on the pitch. We know that the coaches and the management were working hard to figure out the best way to get this approved. So far, it seems like everything is still going smoothly, and we will have Premier League back as of June 17th. But a little bit before that, we've got La Liga, which is Real Madrid, and I'm really excited for that one. They'll be back on June 11th. And then the FA Cup final is set for August 1st. Then the biggest thing that's being negotiated right now that we haven't gotten full confirmation back on is the police want the Liverpool-Everton game to be at a neutral siting. They're trying to figure out where that can take place, how it can take place, and of course, when we know more information, you guys will know more information. Stick with us as we go to another quick commercial break, and we come back and have a little chat.
One of the things I love about Bass Pro is they have 3 great ways to shop. You can head into one of their awesome stores, visit BassPro.com, or get great gear from that catalog Johnny Morris sends out. Hi, here's your package. Bass Pro Shops, where commitment, passion, and the great outdoors all come together. Why would you shop anywhere else?
All right, guys, welcome back. So throughout the segment, we have announced the fact that all, if not most, professional leagues and teams have come out with a statement as to the injustice and the dismay that took place last week, Monday, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Many players are speaking out and taking to social media to show their backing for the people in this country that have felt voiceless, that have felt insignificant, that have felt like no matter what they do, they won't be heard. Obviously, larger name athletes are the first to come to mind, from LeBron James to Steph Curry. Tom Brady and his wife Giselle released a statement. Evander Kane, Julian Zach Ertz, Joe Burrow, Ryan Sanders, the Timberwolves coach, Blake Wheeler, Joseph Mathis, Austin Matthews, Charles Leclerc, Jonathan Towles, as I mentioned earlier, JT Miller, Patrick Mahomes, Jadon Sancho scored his first hat trick of his career and ripped his jersey off to say justice for George Floyd. We are hearing more involvement, and we are hearing from people that you've never really heard from before, who never took to social media to say much or said the bare minimum, and they're taking their time every single day to say more and more, or to kind of reassure everyone that they're still there, they're still listening, and they're still speaking on the fact that they stand next to everyone who feels like they don't have a voice in this country, and with all the injustice that takes place and that has taken place. Now, as a member of media, and I'm a part of an amazing team, I needed a minute before I could address this situation to its entirety. I finally did watch the video. It was very hard to watch the injustice that happened to George Floyd. I honestly can't express enough my dismay and my feelings or thoughts to the fact that racism is, in this day and age, really still such a thing, and such a loud thing at that. Now, I can't express enough my condolences to not only George Floyd and his family, to any family living in fear or whose lives have been taken because of racism in the 21st century. I think that's the part that I'm still wrapping my mind around, that people are losing their lives to racism and hatred and ego. Now, I obviously took last week and some time to really think about how to articulate this. And between the unjust actions, the protest, and now the unfortunate rioting and looting, the bottom line for me, in my opinion, is that it's going to take everyone, every race, every culture, and every background in complete unison to make the change that's being sought out. An eye for an eye and the loss of more innocent lives is not the answer. Violence changes the narrative. It's as simple as that. And it will blur the bigger picture. And it will speak louder than what actually needs to be heard and seen and discussed and digested amongst everybody in the nation. I don't know what it is about this time or this incident that took place last week. I don't know what it is about the particular person, situation, officer, but I can say that what I've noticed after taking time to sit back and observe is that more people seem to be vocalizing their disgust with the situation. More people are being touched by the situation, and more people are being encouraged to not only speak out, but to stand up and stand side by side with people. not just nationally, but even internationally. If you guys have paid attention, we have international athletes that are making their statement, and to say that they're standing by everybody in this country who is feeling a how to what we witnessed last week on Monday. Now, I do understand this is a very touchy subject. It's an uncomfortable issue, and it's a very sensitive matter. But every little effort of unity amongst every race helps and is a step forward in the right direction. We have to be that one nation under God in order to inspire the change that we are dying to see. In unity, there is change. And for the change that we so desperately need in this country right now, everyone, every race, every culture, and every background has to stand together. Change will forever begin and end with having compassion and respect, regardless of people's race, culture, and background. And when people feel respected, they feel courageous and encouraged. That is the beginning of true change. Peaceful protests raise awareness, and it opens conversation, and it creates a little bit more comfort to dive deeper into the conversations that have to happen. But violence will mute the matter quickly, and it will encourage people to turn a blind eye, or it will cause the situation that needs so much conversation and awareness to fall on deaf ears. To learn is to listen, and to listen is to learn. Don't let the negative speak louder than the positive, and remember that we are truly stronger together. And the most important thing to take away from all of this is that it is truly and actually brutally and really, 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 really time for change. It is insane to say that it is year 2020 and things like this are taking place. It breaks my heart to watch videos of people who are bawling their eyes out, or who are expressing themselves in complete rage and anger. And it's as simple to take a step back and ask yourself, how would I feel if I felt like I had no voice, if I felt absolutely alone, if I felt like nobody could hear me or nobody cared to hear me? If we removed color from the situation, if we removed gender from the situation, and we thought of ourselves as just a person, a spirit, a soul, not being able to be heard, not being able to be understood, not feeling like we have any support, that's a very, very, very dark feeling to have. And as a nation and a world and a generation who speaks so much to mental health and mental illness awareness, it all kind of flows in the same category, because when you isolate people to feel unheard, unworthy, unaccepted, you're messing with their mental health. So you're putting them in a place to not feel mentally safe. This is going to touch across the world, and it's already touching across the world, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to feel like they have an opportunity to be heard, to be seen, to be supported, and to be loved. And everybody has a different way of going about it. Nobody has the 100% answer at the moment, but it's going to start with compassion, and it's going to start with respect. And even if you don't understand, it's going to start with a conversation. And regardless of the comfort that is or is not there, it's just to say that enough is enough in 2020 to be having such historic situations take place. The bottom line is, it is important that it is time for change. So, of course, as always, we kind of close with a community hero. And, the community hero is going to be us, you guys, everybody. Everybody has to step up to do their part, and everybody has to step up to say, I may not have the words, or I may not know how to articulate or express what I'm feeling, or completely support or adhere or understand what you're feeling, but I don't want to see you in pain. So I stand by you to see you feel better, to see you be stronger, to see you find your place in this world without fear. And that's the bottom line of coming together. It's going to take everybody. It's not going to be the loudest race. It's not going to be the loudest voice. It's going to be every culture, every background, and every race. So I give this to you guys to rise and be the community heroes in each of you guys' communities. Do what you can. It doesn't always take a lot of vocalizing. It doesn't always take a lot of posting. As for the people that, are hopping on social media and seeing how many people are posting what and when, that's not always the platform that people need to be supportive. But it takes a minute to do some research and say, how can I do this much to make this much of a difference? And that is what we need right now. And I do encourage you guys to keep protesting peaceful if you want to go out and protest, because more innocent lives being lost, again, is going to change the narrative. And right now, the loudest voice needs to be the positivity that this world needs to change. In 2020, we should not be having old and historic battles and fights. We should not have anybody walking around with a lapse of mental health because they fear for their life. And as we head into Pride Month, we know that there's a whole other alignment there that understands this feeling, and it's not okay. Be the hero in your community, guys. It doesn't take much. We'll see you on Wednesday at 8 p.m.